we have some people here. We have some people there. So I think it's time we get started. It's 5 after 12. And I want to be respectful of Dr. Cline's time and yours. This is a little different. I hope you can hear me. I'm going to take my mask off, Dave, simply so perhaps folks can hear a little better. And when you speak, if you're speaking like Dr. Cline will be, please be as close to your microphone as you can. You're gonna see the inside of my ear as I try to listen. I hope that doesn't offend anybody. So, well, let's get started like we normally do. I do have a flag here. So we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. I also have a prayer for us. Lord, I slept and dreamt that life was a joy. I woke and saw life was service. I acted, and behold, service was joy. Now guide us through our most difficult time and protect our fellow Kiwanians and the children of the world. Amen. Thank you for being here, folks. We appreciate it. You'll notice I'm skipping the song. We're in public. I'm not sure we want to sing in public. Okay, the introduction of guests. For those of you not here, we have our distinguished Lieutenant Governor Earl Schroeder here. Hey! And our program today is Dr. Charan, Cline, and he's going to talk to us about all the exciting things he gets to do as a result of the pandemic. Dr. Cline, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me. If I can share my screen, I'll put on a little presentation where you can see where I'm talking about. And screen share. Excellent.
I don't know what happened. I just lost something. Okay.
All right. Can you see me?
Yes.
Cool. Let me move things so I can press the right button. There we go. All right. Okay, so this is it's a chaotic time, everybody, and I think our whole team right now over here is working through changing conditions that change, it seems like every day, to try and put together an organization here that can serve this community. And so I've got a few things to talk to you about, but I thought I'd start by just introducing myself real quick and kind of what my background is. Again, my name is Charan Cline. I was actually raised in Oregon, born in California, unfortunately, but raised in Oregon since I was 3 in Southern Oregon. Family ran a construction business, and so I spent my childhood from about 6 years old till I was a year after high school, pounding nails and working in construction. And so that was kind of my life as a kid. I've been a school administrator for about 20, or I've been an educator for about 25 years, a school administrator for 19 years. The last 10 of them a superintendent. And this is the 3rd school district that I've worked in as a superintendent. The first one, it was actually a dual role where I was the assistant superintendent at the Douglas ESD down in the Roseburg area. And then I did half-time the superintendent of a small school district called North Douglas. And then I went up to Yamhill Carlton for 8 years working out there. Been a lot of good work. It's been done a lot of interesting things with it. I've enjoyed the work and are enjoying it every time. I'm a veteran of the U.S. Army. I was in the first Gulf War. Believe it or not, for a lot of people, or for me anyway, that was the event that kind of set my course in life. I emerged from that experience feeling like I had made a difference in the world, and I wanted to continue to make a difference in the world. And so as I got into education, it was very much for me about how can I continue to make a positive difference in this world. And that's what got me into this. In terms of education, I got my bachelor's degree from Western Oregon University. It was called Western Oregon State College back then. Apparently, I'm just getting old. I got my master's degree from the University of Oregon. I earned that at the same time I was teaching at Philomath High School outside of Corvallis. I taught social studies there for 6 years. And then a couple of years ago, I went back and to George Fox and got my doctorate there over in Newburgh. In terms of my priorities about education, it's pretty simple, really. I just want to make sure that every child graduates from the Redmond School District with a very clear set of skills and a focused plan of how they're going to use them. So if a child wants to go to the university, I want to make sure they're skilled and ready to go and they know where they're headed. If they'd like to go out and become an electrician, I'd like to see them walk out the door with an internship or apprenticeship in hand so they can go right into working with them on work on. My goal really is about helping people be successful, every child being successful. But secondarily, I'd like our students here to build the community. Ideally, I'd prefer people to be educated here. They can go to the university if you want to, but I'd like to see them come back here, get jobs in this community, and help build it. If they go right out of high school into the workforce, I'd like to see them be successful in a few years, start their own businesses. So that's an important thing to me, is how we use the school district to help build the community, make it a better place for everyone to live in. The question I'm most often about myself is, how the heck did I get that name? How did I get a name like Charan? Because when you meet me, I'm a pretty straight-laced guy, you know, just kind of your average middle-aged white guy. And I wonder if I could get someone to mute their microphones out there. I'm getting a lot of feedback from this side. Thank you. Anyway, basically, it's pretty simple. My parents were hippies. They grew up in Southern California. They're both surfers on the beach and spent time in their younger years. My dad was studying Eastern religions, and I got a name out of one of the books he was reading. I actually grew up in a commune down in Southern Oregon, although it wasn't a hippie commune by the time I was a teenager. But still, it was a commune kind of focused on the idea of the first church. How do you create a Christian living environment, kind of where everybody has things in common? That was sort of the goal of what that was like. But anyway, that's how I got the name Charan. It's unusual. It means God's feet in Hindi. And there's more to that story sometime. I'll tell people if they really want to know. All right, so I'm going to cover 3 things today in our presentation, 3 kind of smaller topics. I'm going to stop at the end of each little one to answer questions as we go through it. Number 1 is getting back to school. How do we get our kids actually back in the classroom? Well, as you probably heard last week, all of a sudden the governor came out with new rules about comprehensive distance learning. And we had been planning on getting our kids back to school. We put a lot of effort, a lot of work into building plans, socially distancing our classrooms, buying lots of masks, buying desks, doing everything we needed to spread things out. And then it changed. And what we're having to figure as we're moving through this is the environment is changing quickly for us. The rule basically is that until our county, and all counties in Oregon, but until our county, it has less than 10 cases per week out of a population of 100,000 people for 3 weeks in a row, our kids have to be in comprehensive distance learning. That means they're learning from home. And I'll talk about what that looks like in a minute. On the other hand, kindergarten through 3rd grade are allowed back to school if we hit cases of less than 30 per 100,000 for at least 3 weeks in a row. And so people want to know, well, what does that look like? So I've got a document here for you. This is released last week. Sorry, on Monday this came out, about last week. And it shows the cases. For those of you that can actually see a screen here, I'll blow this up a little bit. And we come down to Deschutes County. Here we are right here. And you can see on the week ending in 7/5, there were 24.9 cases per 100,000 with a 3.3 positive test rate. So 3.3 people were tested for COVID, had it. The next week, it blew up to 44 at 7.4%. The week after that, so starting, not ending, 7/19 started, blew up to 56 a case, but the positivity rate went down to 4.9. And then last week, it dropped to 39.9 with 1.8. I sure hope that that shows the top of the curve and we're starting to come back down, but we won't know until things just kind of move forward. So that's what that looks like. Those are the numbers that are ruling the school district's life at the moment. And because of that, affecting families and children all across our community. Many people have asked me, why did you pick October 16th as the next time for benchmark? Well, the idea is we're trying to give people a long lead time, what we're up to. We want to make sure that the numbers are consistent. We don't want to bring kids back to school and then a week later have to kick them back out of school and then bring them back to school. We don't want to yo-yo people around. So we're trying to give people long lead times so they can see and get a sense and make plans for what the circumstances look like. We're trying to create very clear communications with our community members and our parents. We put a lot of information out. We're continuing to put a lot of information out. If, on the other hand, our numbers really start coming down, we certainly won't wait that long to start bringing kids back. Those are mostly about benchmarks of communication as we're working for that. We're asking parents to pick, as they're going into this, whether they're going to be full-time online or in comprehensive distance learning. And what the difference is, well, in the beginning, it won't look any different from each other. You'll have Redmond school teachers working with online components, online tools to teach kids and teach classes. But we're asking some people that if they wanted to do that all year long, to tell us now, as opposed to doing the part-time or doing it until we're allowed to bring people back. The reason we're asking that is because, so let's say we've got 20 third grade classrooms. If we have 35 kids, all third graders who all sign up to be online full time, we'll take a teacher and shift that person, and that's what they'll do all year long. So we're asking people to make that commitment so we can staff appropriately and make sure we've got people where they need to be. Okay. So what does comprehensive distance learning look like? Well, in Redmond, there's two basic tools. There first is a learning management system called Canvas. Now, if anybody's taken a college class in the last 10 years or so, you will have used a learning management system. And this is something that you've got online where the teacher is able to assign assignments that way. They're able to, you turn in your assignments through it. They're able to grade the work through it. They're able to post your grades right there. They're able to create student chats where the kids come together and they do chatting and discussions about things. They're able to bring in everything they do into that one platform, making it pretty easy for kids to be able to navigate around and get what they need to get. We're going to use Florida virtual school classes, and these are classes that are in all 50 states. They're based and built on national standards, which are the standards that Oregon has adopted into its K-12 system. And our teachers are going to use that, and we're going to use that no matter what platform that we're in. If a child is full-time online, or if they're in comprehensive distance learning, or when we come back to school, they're still going to use that same platform. And this is going to give us the opportunity to be very flexible if we move people around. If we're in the situation of having to quarantine groups of people, again, it'll be a consistent way of they're getting information, consistent way of instruction back and forth. Our teachers are required to meet with our students virtually at least once a day, and often more often than that. We're going to be limited mostly by the technical bandwidth that exists in the community and in people's homes. There's only so long people can do the video thing online before they just burn themselves out on it. When we do come back to school, this is what it's going to look like. Again, our kindergarten to third grade are going to come back first, and that'll happen as Deschutes hitting that 30 per 100,000 cases for 3 weeks in a row. When the students come back, they'll be socially distanced from each other. They'll be at least 6 feet apart. They'll be in cohorts. So any individual child while they're in the school, won't interact with more than 100 other kids in a week during that time period. All students and teachers will be wearing masks all the time. We'll be cleaning and sanitizing between every cohort group as they use, if a group's using bathrooms or they're using playgrounds, whoever will be sanitizing that space. At the secondary level, so 6-12, the kids will actually come back on an A-B schedule, bring in half the kids at a time. Again, the kids will be getting instruction full-time online with the virtual schools, for the virtual school classes. So we'll be getting instruction every day, but they'll come in for teacher help every other day. Our athletic schedules are going to be delayed. Hopefully we'll see football in the spring, but right at the moment, we're just delayed. We don't know what that's going to look like. Some of our other sports we will see, I think cross country, we may see in the fall. Really depends on what the numbers look like. So that was quick. Let me open that up to questions real quick on that section. Questions from anybody?
Any questions out there?
Yes.
Has OSBA or FERPA or state anything about liability in school insurance?
Right. Thank you for asking. Yeah. Our insurance company, all insurance companies across the state have said they are not covering liability for anything related to communicable disease. We're on our own for that. The legislature is coming back into session on the 10th of August. That is one of the topics they're going to take up, and hopefully they'll provide us a little bit of immunity if we're following the rules. But right at the moment, no, we're going in without a net.
Yes, I have a question. What happens if you just start school and one of your teachers or one of your students tests positive? Do you quarantine the teacher and all those 100 students for 2 weeks or what?
Yes, that's the protocol. If we have teachers, a teacher or two, they get sick, or a student, they get sick, that whole cohort group is quarantined for 2 weeks. That's correct.
Any other questions?
I have a couple questions.
Go
I
ahead.
do.
Please,
Pick me. Can I just talk?
yes. Go ahead.
Okay. So I'm curious, do you know if the city of Redmond's getting involved in making sure that kids have computers and internet connections and daycare for parents so that they can go back to work?
So far, the city of Redmond has not contacted us about being involved with that work.
Is the school district coming together and helping these kids get the tools they need to do the online learning?
Yes, the school will provide a device for every child. We've also provided up to 500 hotspots already for families that don't have internet. We've got a few left that we can give out to people, but we'll be working through that. In terms of childcare, Champions, which is our partner with childcare, is developing some childcare opportunities for folks, but I don't have the details on what that looks like right now.
Dave, can you turn on the screen so we can see who's here?
I'm sorry, Alicia, did you have any more questions?
Well, I was curious, as far as keeping all of our teachers employed, are you keeping the online classes small so that they're not overburdened with too many students?
They'll have approximately the same students they would have had before. Some of the online classes, yeah, it'll be about the same of what they've got. You can actually handle more students online than you can in the classroom. And so with our teachers who are online only, they'll have a few more students than the teachers who have people just in class.
Charan?
I'm just worried if they overburden them with too many students that they can't do the one-on-one help with them. If they're struggling with the online, I mean, there's some kids that just aren't going to flourish online and they're going to need some additional help. And if they have too many students, how do they provide that type of help?
Well, there'll be a couple things going on. First of all, you can provide it online because sometimes you give out an assignment for students to do. And then you can go and one-on-one connect with kids, right? And you don't have to move around the classroom. You can just dial them up. And the other thing is we're going to, a lot of our aides, a lot of our folks that wouldn't have a job to do in this case, we're retasking those folks to do some of that work.
That's fabulous.
To be calling a lot of our students, especially students who are in special ed, students that need extra help. We know who those students are. And so they'll spend quite a bit of time online calling to try and catch up with people.
That's great. Thank you very much.
You bet.
Other questions?
Yeah, I have one, but I
Yes.
keep causing feedback when I unmute. This is a whole different direction. A couple of years ago, I was the host parent to a young Chinese student in high school.
Yes.
And I wanted to feedback to you that the counselors and the staff do not take the time they should take to get to know the international students.
Okay.
Her last name is spelled C-A-O, and it's pronounced Sue. When they gave her a diploma, they called her Hannah Cow, and it embarrassed the hell out of all of us. And she'd spent a lot of time with them. They didn't learn how to even pronounce her name. And her feedback was, you guys need more counselors and you need to focus more on your international students.
Thank you for the feedback.
You're welcome.
All right, I'm gonna hit the next topic unless I've got any more questions on this one.
I got a question regarding
Yeah.
the sports programs.
Yeah,
At Redmond High School, there's been a fair group of students working out 4 days a week. Seems to be going pretty well. I haven't heard of any cases or anybody being sick from there. It sounds like their check-in policy has been working out. Is that what you're hearing?
that is also what I'm hearing, yes. Now, one thing I have to know is that there is a possibility they're gonna make me kick all the kids off of campus. So far, we're not gonna do that unless I'm forced to do it. But as far as I know, that situation has gone well, and our coaches have been very careful to keep people separated.
Okay. Will they continue to, like, if there's not sports this fall, other than maybe the non-contact sports like cross country or maybe golf or some of those other sports, will they continue to allow workouts like that as long as we can while the weather's nice?
It really depends on state regulations. They've been starting to clamp down on small groups of students at school for various things. We'll do it as long as we're allowed. I don't know how much longer we're going to be allowed.
Okay.
Other questions? Dr. Cline, I really appreciate you taking the time to visit us.
Well, I'm not done. I got two more things to talk about.
Changes so that we can actually talk to you and see you and touch you, as it were. We'd like you to consider coming back and join us here at the Kiwanis Clubs.
Earl has to continue. He has more.
He's not done, Earl.
Can I continue or am I cut off?
Oh, are you done? Not done? I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
Talk about. I'll try to be fast though. All right, just so you know, one of the things I won't do questions on this one. I'll do questions, save them for the next. Try and go faster. I can talk forever if you let me. First of all, I just wanted to let you know that one of the priorities of the school district is to develop an equity task force this year. This is a big thing throughout our nation right now, and this is something our school district is going to take on in a pretty strong way. Really what we're after, if you want to sum it all up, is we want to make sure every child is achieving well and every child has the tools they need to go out and live their dreams and be successful. There's a lot of work to do to help make that happen. And so that's something, if you're interested in getting involved with that work, you can let me know. And that's something that we'll have people working on, and kind of after we get the school year going, you'll start to hear a little more about this. Okay. I think I wanted to really talk about today is the school district is considering running a bond effort in November. Now, I'm sure most of you are saying right now, are you nuts? Why would you possibly run a bond effort in the middle of a pandemic and when the economy is on shaky ground? That's a pretty legitimate question. But let me tell you a little about why we're thinking about doing this. First of all, we've hired consultants to talk to us about when is the best time to run bonds. And we're able to run a bond. Really, they recommend that we do it in general elections in this community. The school district does better in these kind of votes when we have more voters. And so more voters tend to participate in general elections. That's the election every 4 years of president. And so we'd like to run one now because it's our best chance of winning, if you will. We also are in a unique situation right now that the district has qualified for $7.6 million from the state as a grant, a matching grant for facilities. And this is money that the Redmond voters don't have to pay back. This is stuff that's done at the state level. What ends up happening really is people in Portland pay for renovations here in Redmond. And so it's an opportunity we don't want to give away. So we're in the process right now of refinancing a bond from 2008, I think, which will save the voters about 16 cents per thousand. So taxes will go down 16 cents per thousand of value, and save the community about $6 million over the life of the bond. So if we issue a bond on that gap of the 16 cents, we can raise about $26 million without raising anybody's taxes. Basically, exactly what people are paying now. We can raise that 26 million. We've also been saving up 1149 funding, which is funding we get from the energy company, from the electric company, for doing work work to reduce the energy usage. And so the idea is to throw that into part of this effort, which gives us a budget of approximately $34,600,000 without raising anybody's taxes. So what would we use that for? Well, if you recall in 2016, when this community ran a bond, they're trying to replace Lynch Elementary School because it's not in very good shape. It's old. Some of the construction in it is a little shaky. And so the idea was to replace it. Well, we could replace a school for $35 million. That would pay for one school, basically. Schools are horrendously expensive to build. But then that wouldn't leave anything for any other projects that need to get done around the district. So this is our proposal. Instead, we would build a wing at Vern Patrick Elementary School. That school was originally designed for 4 wings. It was built with 3. And so the idea is we would add a wing back on there, which would add 6 classrooms. We would add a little building, another wing between Tom McCall Elementary and Elton Blake Gregory Middle School. And that would add 12 classrooms to the district, would account for where housing is being developed, where we're likely to see families there. Plus, we'll shift people out of facilities that are in poor shape to ones that are in better shape. We'll get a little better value by building onto schools than we build from scratch. You don't have to completely, raise areas or rebuild electrical systems. You can scab onto what's there. It works better. We'd really be sticking around $26 million into district-wide repairs, improvements to classrooms, school facilities, student safety, security, maintenance, energy efficiency, and some safety upgrades at Lynch. Uh-oh, what happened to my screen? I've had my screen disappeared. Sorry, hang on. Well, you have to see it like that. The idea then is we do this smaller bond now, and then in 2024, when another bond comes off, we then run another bond campaign then, and that campaign is to replace Lynch Elementary completely, and then upgrade and replace several other buildings that we haven't quite determined yet, but what we could use there. And again, we could do that without raising taxes. So I wanted to chat with everybody about that and answer any questions or hearing your thoughts, whether this is a good idea or not.
Any questions before I mess up again? Okay, Ann's got a question.
Yes, I see you're going to put some money into Lynch, but I thought Lynch was going to be replaced. And I wonder if how long that extends the life, or why you just didn't decide to replace Lynch?
If we replace Lynch, we can't fix anything else. And I've been through that process before where we replaced some buildings and built some buildings and weren't able to fix our existing problem. And while the new buildings were always exciting, we suddenly left a whole pile of other buildings you can't fix. And so the idea here is to fix and make sure the current buildings we've got last. And we use Lynch and we just kind of shore it up for the next 4 years before we replace it.
Okay.
Other questions?
Can I just
Are you-
ask? Oh,
Alicia?
Yes.
me?
Yes, Alicia, right.
I'm curious, with the landscape of the school district, the environment changing the way it is it really a good idea to invest in the physical campus buildings because I honestly think a lot of children and parents might like the online school environment and may not want to come back to campus, especially if in the future there's additional epidemics that are going to hit us and they're going to shut us down on a regular basis. Has there been any conversations in regards to whether or not we're going to have the population back on our school campuses?
I don't think we really have a way to know that until we work through things. Right now, the community is growing. They're expecting the community to hit 50,000 people by 2040, which means we can expect a certain amount of school growth as well. It's hard to know if this situation that we're going to be in is going to cause that to happen. We haven't been, economically, I don't think we've moved away where many people have to have two-parent families working, two working families, which means people have to have somewhere for their kids to go in childcare. So I think we're going to see most people continue to keep their kids in school. Will some decide to go with the online options? Yeah, it's very possible. But either way, we have to invest in the current buildings we have so they don't fall apart.
I know we have a lot of, especially in real estate, we have a lot of agents that have now moved their offices into their homes and don't plan on coming back. And I've heard the same for many other businesses. And I just wonder if when you guys do start this online school and these parents that can work from home start working from home on a regular basis, if you're really going to get those children back into the campus school life in the droves that we have today or last year. So it'll be interesting to see. I know you can't predict, your crystal ball probably a little cloudy right now, kind of like real estate. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
It will. I know we get a lot of messages from people begging us to bring the kids back to school. And so it's hard to really know the answer to that question.
Other questions? Going once, other questions?
I'll just say, I think your first part makes complete sense. Refinancing the debt and doing what you're going to do without raising taxes at all seems like a no-brainer to me. But I do think Alicia's point about new schools in the future might be under question for a little bit. And I guess I'd ask the question is, where do you see our student population growth over the next 5 to 10 years? Are we growing at a rate where we need to build need to build more schools?
Well, we did back in 2018, they did a population study, and we're only seeing about 1% growth a year. So I don't think we're going to need to build new as in schools for more capacity, but I think we're going to need to have schools that aren't wearing out. We've got several schools in the school district that are quite old and not in very good shape. And so really it's about replacing those schools, but not necessarily about gaining a lot of capacity for more kids. Right now we're shifting them a little bit But the idea then going back is when we go to build Lynch in the future, or replace some other schools. And we have a couple elementary schools, for instance, we might combine together and use that building for another reason, right? And then we could rebuild that and change, not necessarily change capacity, but rather make sure we've got buildings that are in good shape.
Thank you. Other questions?
Yeah, I've got a question. Can you give us some insight on the RELC building? You know, all the kindergartners are being dispersed back to all the other elementary schools, is my understanding. Can they repurpose that to more or less replace Lynch or do something like that when there's a school that's?
Yes, it is. It will serve as an elementary school this year.
It will. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. However, that school was originally built as a middle school, and it honestly lays out better as a middle school, which would allow us to change because we're getting a lot of growth at the mid-level. It would allow us to change in the future of using that one as one when we move kids to a different location.
Okay.
And I'd rather build elementary schools than middle schools. They're a lot less expensive to build.
I guess that makes me ask the question, the element or the kindergarten only program, was that not a good program? Did it not work, or what was the final reason to shift all the kids back?
Well, that happened a little before I was here, but what I understand, the capacity it was about lowering class sizes. They wanted to lower class sizes. We had too many kids in each class. We had money that was supposed to come from the state, but of course it disappeared in the economic problems with the pandemic. But the idea was less about the kindergarten only program and more about moving kids into their neighborhood schools in smaller classes. So that's why they did that shift.
Any other questions? Dr. Cline, again, I want to thank you for taking the time to share with us. This has been a different kind of experience for us. We've heard cars and motorcycles go by, and it's been an interesting experience. And I'm just glad that you're doing this job and not me. I tell you that.
Well, thank you for having me today. If anybody wants to get involved with that bond campaign, if you want to shoot me an email, I'll be happy to invite you to the Political Action Committee meeting to meet on August 13th.
All righty.
Also
Good.
virtual.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And to go to the order, gentlemen, ladies, Friday and Saturday, if you're going to deliver your green bags, if they're full, if you have them, Roland will be down at the park on Friday at Centennial Park to receive your bag, give you a new one. I will be down there Saturday, so we'd really appreciate you folks bringing those down to us. If for one reason or another you cannot, just give me a call and I'll come over and get it from you. That's and be sure to pick up a second bag. And one of the things that Earl Schroeder would like to talk to us about, or would like us to think about at least, is at the district convention at the end of this month. To the best of my knowledge, none of us have signed up to go. Earl, however, is a delegate at large, and he could carry our votes. Is that right, Earl? And is there anybody who objects for Carl spreading on our minutes that we have authorized Lieutenant Schroeder to represent Redmond in the voting process that will take place at the end of the month, whatever that Sunday date is? Earl, would you have anything else you'd like to say about that?
Can't hear you, Earl.
If somebody's speaking, I can't hear them at all.
Yeah. Ann, could you share your phone with Earl? Oh. You come over here and talk to mine. There you go.
Can you hear me okay now?
Alicia, can you hear him now?
Try it again.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Relative to the district convention, although it's taking a board
Oh,
event.
nope, he's broken up.
I would encourage any of those people to take the time to try to register for the convention rather than a mode.
I can't understand anything he's saying. Can anybody else?
Getting a lot of
Alicia, I can hear you
You're
well.
just-
I can hear Dave well. I can hear Earl well, but I cannot hear the other Earl who's all broken up.
Can you hear me okay? Dave, can you hear me okay?
It
I
sounds
could
like
hear-
you have two mics going.
You've got two mics going now. Maybe some phones are too close together.
Okay?
Yes.
Okay, he's just saying if anybody is encouraging anybody that can to go ahead and register for the convention. It's $25. It's all, I believe the club would pick that up for you. So if you're interested in doing that, please let me know. It's something that particularly the incoming officers might be interested in. Anything else? So to go to the order. I know that you all came just so you could hear the joke. So I don't want to disappoint you. I do have a joke today. Wait a minute, Dan, you can't leave yet.
I'm sorry, Earl. I have to run to another meeting.
Yeah, you got to know the video. I understand. This is quick. Where you from, Sam? A man lay sprawled across 3 entire seats in a theater. When the usher came by and noticed this, he whispered to the man, "Sorry, sir, but you're not allowed, you only allowed 1 seat." The man groaned, but didn't say anything. "Sir, if you don't move, I'll have to get the manager." So the usher goes and gets the manager. The manager says, "Sir, you gotta move." The guy groans, doesn't move. They call the cops. The cop comes and surveys the situation briefly, then asks, "All right, buddy, what's your name?" He says, "Sam." The man moans. The police officer says, "Where you from, Sam?" He says, "The balcony."
Oh, jeez.
You should have left, Alicia.
Goodbye,
You
everybody.
guys came just for that. Okay.
Okay, Earl, love you anyway.
Okay.